Hello again, fellow audiophiles. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of my podcast, Making Waves with Wave Theory. If you would like an audio-only version of this podcast so you can listen on the go or just not be in front of a screen, you can stream or download from Podbean, link down in the description. These episodes are also available on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Spotify. Links down in the description. So head over to your platform of choice to listen, and please hit that follow button while you're there. All right, on with the show. You spent $5,000 on a headphone? Well, yeah, some of we audiophiles do that. Why do we do that? What do we gain from doing that? Hello again, fellow audiophiles. I am Wave Theory, and this is Making Waves with Wave Theory, my podcast where we talk about topics of interest in our audiophile hobby. Today's topic is top-of-the-line headphones. What is the nature of and the state of the Summit Fi headphone market? To discuss this topic, I am joined by Michael from Director's Garage. Michael has been a reviewer of high-end headphone-based gear since about 2019 over on YouTube, so see link down below in the description for his channel and check out his work there. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I think you will too, so let's do the groovy intro music from Benjamin Shielden and Mia Edenberg, and then we will get into my conversation with Michael about the nature and state of the top-of-the-line headphone market. Here we go. Hey, Michael, thanks so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I don't know what you're interested in me for, but...
Yeah, well, because, like, you know, I don't get to watch, like, you guys, and I'm, like, plural here on review. I don't get to watch a lot of other reviewers very often.
I don't watch anyone else. I don't even watch myself.
Yeah.
I'm so busy, like, pushing forward to the next thing. I don't have...
Exactly. But what I do see your stuff come up in my YouTube feed a lot, and it is my impression that you have a fair amount of experience with like the really high-end stuff in the headphone game. And so,
I say I like to play in the deep end of the pool.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. There you go.
It's fun to play there. I can't live there because I'm currently unemployed. But
okay.
if I could, though, I would swim in that. I would dive in and jackknife right into that sucker.
All right. So that's why you're here on this episode, because like what I want to do here is kind of just talk about the nature, state, and like purpose of the top of the line headphone market. Okay, the high end stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, like first of all, we're going to talk about what exactly that means. What does top of the line really mean? What are we talking about when we do those things? Then we'll start getting into what is the nature and purpose of the market up there. What should buyer expectations be up there? And then we'll like maybe at the end we'll have some time to talk about our personal likes and dislikes, maybe dislikes, you know, recommendations once you start playing up in that rarefied air of the Summit.
Ooh, it's there's thin air up there, man. There's not a lot of oxygen.
Yeah. Well, all right. So with that, let's dive in. And I think we really should start with defining our terms. And so we need to talk about like, what are we talking about here in this conversation? And maybe take a stab at what does the audiophile community at large really mean when we say top of the line or Summit Fi, right? And I'm going to throw this out there because I just used this example with you on our own right before we started recording. The Beyerdynamic T1 is technically a top of the line headphone, but it's generally not considered in the group of or in the classification or category of top of the line headphone as most of us understand it. So what do you think that term means? Top of the line.
I think the measure that most people give it
Mm-hmm.
starts with price
Mm-hmm.
over quality, even over sound quality.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think build quality is a major factor in top of the line. I think when you get up into the higher end stuff, the materials, the quality of the materials, the quality of the craftsmanship goes up exponentially. That said, that top of the line, we always talk about trying to get that extra 5% or that extra 3%.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it's living. And you can get 90% of what the top of the line offers for a couple $1,000s. You don't have to spend 10 grand and upwards to get to that stage anymore. But I think of headphones, headphones that are going to hurt or perhaps cost a semester's education at a top university
There you
to
go.
afford. I think we're getting into that top of the line at that point. But I think price is actually the larger delineation, because I think the expectation of the audience, of the public, is that if you are going out to make a purchase of a top of the line headphone and you come back with a $2,000 headphone, I think most people wouldn't accept that as being a top of the line product. Mm-hmm. I think that's a fair thing, even if it's a great headphone, even if it gives stellar sound,
Right. And I do think the reason I wanted to,
I'm going to blow my nose real quick.
Oh, okay. I'll make sure that gets cut out.
Oh, I don't care. I have no shame. Have no shame, my friend. Live like there's no tomorrow.
Have no shame. All right. Well, let's see what Michael's snot rockets sound like on top of the headphones. Yeah.
Love that.
So I largely agree with you, where I think price is the primary delineation and definition of what constitutes top of the line.
Yeah.
And it is the primary one, I would say, because the build quality thing that you brought up is really interesting. But I also think that one gets a little fuzzier than the price.
Oh, there are phenomenal products in the top of the line, like great sounding stuff. And I haven't called anybody out yet, but that you look at them and you go, I'm sorry, I'm just not holding $15,000 worth of product in my hand right now. I'm not looking at $15,000 worth of product.
Yeah. But I think generally speaking, for the purposes of this discussion, the top of the line tier starts, I think, at about $4,000.
I'd put it a little higher.
Headphones. You put it a little higher? Okay.
These days, I would put it around $5,000, because that would get you into Abyss, and that would cut out a lot of the. I don't know that I would call like a Meze Elite a god tier product. I think it's a top tier product for sure. It's an impressive product. ZMF Caldera. I think it's a great product. I don't think it's in that elite.
Okay.
Myself.
So that this is one place where I threw out a different number than you did, right?
Yeah.
So this is, and I think this is another important point, is the definition of top of the line headphones and all of that is a moving target in time. Specifically where that dollar amount falls, I was used to thinking $4,000, and you could be right that maybe it is more appropriate now to think about it in 5K, in the 5K range. I'm not sure. I'm not sold on that idea. But when I started this YouTube channel, 4+ years ago and all of that, it did seem like $4,000 was about the target range. And so I may just have an anchoring bias there, which is just I hadn't even thought to bring this up, but go ahead. You look like you were about to say something.
When I got into headphones, this was 2005, maybe. It was really when I started paying attention. I always had nice headphones, something, but I never paid attention to what was going on in the high end world. And the first top tier headphone I bought was the HD 600, HD 600, or HD 650. I can't remember which version was out then. The open back from Sennheiser. And shortly after I bought that headphone, Sennheiser released an ungodly expensive headphone called the HD 800. And everybody I knew who was into this stuff. And there wasn't a lot of people back then, but everybody I knew who said, $1,500 for a headphone? You got to be nuts. The LCD2 is $900.
Yeah, it seems quaint
Oh
now.
my God, who would pay
Yeah.
$1,500 for a headphone?
Yeah.
We thought there it's dead in the water. Little did I know within 2 years I'd be owning one.
Right.
Because I got curious, because that's what we do. We're stupid people from doing this. And we are terribly stupid people.
Yeah.
Don't let anybody convince you that anything we do in this hobby makes financial sense. It doesn't.
No,
This
not really.
is crazy what we do. But we still do it because we're big dumb guys who do big good dumb things with lots of zeros attached,
Yeah. So that is a really interesting point. But I think, like, to move forward in this conversation today, like, maybe we should probably set it. Let's just call it maybe 4,500, and
all right, we'll split the difference.
Split the difference between the two of us.
What's the difference between friends?
Roughly $4,500 and up to get into the top of the line tier.
Yeah.
Right. And this is just the cost of the headphone. This is not the signal chain or anything like that. This is just the headphone itself there.
I also, by the way, I make a distinction between unobtainable products and top of the line consumer. Because consumer is like stuff that we could actually go out and buy. It's going to cost us a lot of money, but we can go out and buy it. I think when you start talking about HE1, Shangri-La,
Aperio, probably.
Even Aperio, yeah. And when you get into $30,000 for a headphone and up, that's beyond top of the line. That's a product somebody's making to make a statement. It's not making a product for somebody to actually buy. If they do, they're really rich people or insanely stupid people. No, you don't, because you can't convince me that an HE1 sounds 40,000 better than something else.
Right.
You can't convince me of that. Well, and
So
now I think they just upped the price of that to $90,000.
Yeah. And I think you make a very good point here, and is worthwhile for clarification here in this conversation. And that, we are talking about headphones that we just said are like $4,500 plus, and we're not really talking about what you just said, the unobtainiums out there, the HE1s, the Shangri-Las, the Aperios. We are getting into $30,000 plus for that. So I think that's a good way to frame the conversation going forward. And so now I'm going to ask you the question, like, what are you really paying for when you buy that headphone that, let's say for the sake of the discussion, is now landing between about 4,500 and maybe 12,000, right? Somewhere right in there.
Yeah. I think you're paying for, you should be paying for, expectations and reality don't always match, but you should be paying for a build quality that is exceptional. It's beyond your $1,000 headphone. You should be paying for some excellence in some category of sound. Meaning it doesn't have to lead every category, but it should be outstanding in some ways. I don't think that there's very few headphones that are good all over the map. Like, I just check every box. I don't even know if anyone checks every box. I can pick any headphone apart, I think. And I think you're paying for 10%. You're paying because either you want to be seen with this headphone on YouTube or something, or you are really, like me, very curious about how much better can it get? And how much better can I make the sound? The purchases I've made that have been extremely expensive have been in pursuit of that extra, 5 to 10%. It's the reel-to-reel deck back there as a source, which is nobody needs this thing, but it's right off. It's the closest to the master you can get. It's the closest thing we have to getting a master in your hands. That is interesting to me,
Okay. So I think I largely agree with that. I think, like, the primary thing that you are buying is, like, kind of like the ultimate listening experience available at the time, right? And again, that window, that Overton window, if you will, of what is that ultimate experience available, is shifting upward as time goes, both in price and in quality, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
While
Mm-hmm.
that technology that people research and put in those top tier headphones, like the Sysvara, keeps trickling down into better and better
Yes.
models
Yes.
that most of us can afford. And
100%. And
that's
that,
the win.
yeah, and that's where I was going to start making the transition to. Yes, I think it is absolutely fair, and you should be expecting that you are getting the ultimate listening experience available at the time in some areas, whether that be resolution or
Yeah.
impact bass slam, soundstage, whatever the thing is that you're going for. Probably at least 2 to 3 of those sound qualities, they should be like top 2
Ideally.
or 3 in the world.
I've had a couple that have been
those.
none.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Yeah, whoops, which maybe we'll get to that later here.
Yeah.
And I think your point there was really good, and I was transitioning to it in my own way here, is that you are also paying for R&D, right? You are paying to move the hobby and the state of headphone listening technology forward.
And don't omit the prestige factor. There's a prestige factor to walking around You see the guys walking around Can Jam with their Imanis slung over around their necks like they're big bad boss daddies, and they probably are. But
maybe
I won't give them the pleasure of the acknowledgement. The other thing I would say is this, and it's very important, especially if somebody's watching out there who is new to the hobby. Don't jump in to the high end.
No.
Do not do it.
No.
Don't do it. The biggest mistakes.
Yeah.
First of all, these top tier products, for the most part, require very specific backbones to your system.
Source gear. Yeah.
Source gear. You have to have the right power. You have to have the right DAC, and matching those things is going to be extremely important. And that's something that experience will teach you. The other thing is you don't have a reference. You're new to the hobby and you're going out and buying the best thing. You don't know why you're buying the best thing. You're not going to appreciate the best thing because you don't know what it's doing better than something else that's more affordable. So if without that frame of reference, you're literally wasting money because you don't understand what you're hearing. And I made that mistake more often than I care to admit. And I still I go back and I look at my earlier reviews from 2019.
1919.
Well, I feel that old.
Yeah, there you go.
But it's from 2019, pre-pandemic, and I'm like, oh my God, I was a terrible reviewer. I really did not know what I was talking about.
You make a really good point here, and you've made a couple of really good points. I completely agree with you that it is not a good idea for someone to jump headfirst into the top of the line headphone game without spending time moving through the entry level, the mid-fi tier, the lower hi-fi tier, to really understand what it is that you're getting when you do jump up to those top of the line units.
Have a reason to go there. Don't go there blind because you're not. You don't know what you're going there for. You're going there just to buy it because this guy said it was the best.
Right. And I think at that point, for that buyer, it is a status symbol thing, right?
Yeah.
If they can afford it and they can do it, but they'd have no idea why it's that expensive, then you're talking about a status buyer.
The guy who wants a Lamborghini in the driveway just to have a Lamborghini in the driveway. It just sits there in front of the house,
Right. Okay.
He's afraid to drive it.
The other thing, I do want to talk about this R&D and moving the market forward and the trickle down effect of the technology, because we have both brought this up now. And I want to come back to what you said earlier about we cut out the unobtainiums, the HE1, the Aperio, the Shangri-La. Up at that point, it really is primarily, I think, about R&D and wanting to push the market forward. It's a showcase.
It's not funding the top of the market.
Is doing. No, it's not funding the top of the market, but it is saying, here's what is possible. Here's what we can do now. Yeah. And then you do in time see that trickle down. I think the most clear example of that is the Shangri-La, right? Yeah. Because you can clearly see through Hi-Fi-Man's lineup, the Shangri-La was the first one to have those egg-shaped ear cups. Right? Yeah. And you can see the shape and the form factor of Hi-Fi-Man's headphones taking after the Shangri-La.
Was the HE1000? I thought
example.
the HE1000 was before that.
They were pretty close to the same time in there. Okay. But like you could see they put the R&D into the really high end stuff, and now that egg-shaped form factor's all the way down there. Like, what's the Edition XV now? Like
$500 or something.
Yeah. And so it's all the way down there into the multiple hundreds, where a much more easily obtainable for a wider range of people,
and not a bad headphone either.
Correct. Right. Yeah. So yes. So just kind of put a bow on this part of the conversation. Your expectations and like what the top of the line market is giving you when you get into it. What are you paying for? Okay. Ultimate sound quality in at least some areas of sound. Okay. Available at the time. Okay. Build quality. We didn't spend a whole lot of time on that one. We could come back to that if you want. But in generally speaking, I think I agree with you. You get a better build quality, higher quality materials in the construction.
At least that, except for stacks.
Yeah. Well, like even something like Susvara. Susvara has an okay build. It's not terrible.
It was, it was one of the first. It was the first consumer headphone that really crossed that $5,000 point. And they did so with a unique design. Well, with an adaptive design anyway.
Right. But the thing is, like, even though that one doesn't necessarily look and feel like it would be a $6,000 unit when you pick it up, it has held up. Like, its build appears to have held up over time, because that's a model that was released in like 2017, I think, somewhere back in that range. And it's still one of the standards out there. There are still people who use it a lot. So clearly its design has held up over time.
Oh, I think it's the place where if you're looking to get in the top of the line, that's the place you should go. And you should not go with the Unveiled. You should go with the OG, because the OG is sub $3,000 now on the used market. It's as long as you have the amp for it, it's a steal. It's the best buy you can do right now.
Well, and a little bit of a teaser for maybe later in the episode is like the reality of the Susvara having been around since 2017 also means that there are more and more amps down in the lower prices that have the power for it. Anymore, because they're like, oh, we want to be able to drive that if anybody ever wants to. And so its presence up there being hard to drive has changed the amp market.
I also delineate driving it, in other words, having it make enough volume and making it sound good. There are a handful of amps that drive that headphone really well. And I've tried every amp on that thing. I mean, I've bought more amps. My channel is littered with gravestones of amps that were bought and sold specifically for the Susvara and failed.
Yeah. All right. So, and then there's the R&D thing, to like put a bow on what we were just talking about there. Like there's the R&D thing, like it's buying at the top of the line is you're getting like the latest and greatest innovations that hopefully, not always, but hopefully are leading to improved sound quality. And in the future generations of lower priced products, you'll start to see those innovations show up throughout the rest of the lines from those companies. Right.
The SE, certainly the HE1000 SE is such a direct descendant of the Susvara in so many ways, I think.
Yeah. Just because they pump out so many products, it's really easy to see this trickle down effect of the tech happen in real time with Hi-Fi.
With Hi-Fi,
it really is easy to see it. Yes. Right. And so, I mean, you can also kind of see it with Odyssey to a degree too, because like they introduced their phasers on their driver tech, and the top of the line models, and that has trickled down, and all of that kind of stuff too. So,
yeah, I think that's fair, but they kind of, I think Odyssey, the difference between Hi-Fi and Odyssey, Hi-Fi kind of went for the top of the line thing, and then whereas Odyssey kind of built up to it, and I think there's more of a top down from Hi-Fi, whereas there's more a bottom up from Odyssey.
That could be.
They went LCD2, LCD3, LCD4, which is a big jump in price, and then LCD5, which has nothing to do with the LCD4, but it's still above the LCD4
Right.
in their product line, as far as
Yeah.
tiering it. So they're a little bit of an odd duck that way. But yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
where I was going with that.
Are you enjoying this content? Please help me keep it going by becoming a YouTube channel member. If you become a YouTube channel member, not only will you help me keep doing cool content like this, but you can get benefits such as being able to talk to me and my audio buddies on Discord, getting to watch my review videos early, or getting access to exclusive customers-only content. Head over to my YouTube channel and become a member today. All right, here's another big question, and I think this is where there are a lot of fights on the forums, because we audiophiles love to get into fights with each other.
Oh my God, I haven't been on a forum, and I can't remember the last time I was on a forum, but go ahead.
Yeah.
I'll take my best.
Yeah, and this is the question, and I think we'll spend some time here, right? Because I think there's a lot of layers to this onion. And that is it worth it? Is it worth it to get into this top of the line tier with headphones? And so I'm going to intentionally leave that as a broad question, and you can start us off with an initial response, and we'll build.
Well, when you say worth it, the first word that comes to your mind is value.
Mm-hmm.
There is no value in the top of the line. There's no value there. You're not going to get a value. You're not going to get a deal. You're not going to get, these are luxury products we are buying at the top of the line. You have to think of them like buying a Rolex, like buying a, whatever, or buying a fancy car that when you have a daily driver, there's no value up there. So get that, headphones are not investments. They've never been investments. Oh, Jesus. Hang on. We'll try that again. God, my sinuses are a disaster today. They were yesterday, too. I did a live.
We'll back that up and let you. Yeah, we'll back that one up and edit it because I don't think you want to see them with your loogie hanging out of your
Yeah, I really don't, and I don't want to see me with that loogie hanging out. Good God, it's just like it's crazy.
Anyway, all right. So you were talking about it's not an investment.
I'll back up. Headphones, we're at the top of the line. These are luxury products. These are not investments. These are expendable cash. You have to think of these like an expensive watch, an expensive car, something that you don't need. And certainly nothing that will hold value or appreciate in value like an asset. And that is one of the funniest arguments you hear people make as well. It's an investment. These will never lose. Bull. Go look at the Hi-Fiman HE1000 right now. These are not investments. These are luxury products, and they go down in value significantly. Like, try and sell. I've been had on the market for a long time now, an Abyss AB 1266 TC. I mean, you're going to lose 20% right off the top. Mm-hmm. So don't think of it as an investment. You have to think of it in terms of, I want this thing for whatever the reason is in your own mind. Mm-hmm. But it's not investment. It's not an asset. It's these are degradable products that degrade and over time, like anything else.
They're also going to be surpassed by a future generation.
And there's going to be something that comes along.
Yep.
Sometimes a week after you buy them, mm-hmm. that surpass it. I mean, I think that's happened so many times.
Right. Well, that's another one of the remarkable things about the Susvara was how well it has held up.
It's a testament to Hi-Fiman and Dr. Fang.
Yeah.
They designed a product that's very hard to eclipse, and it mm-hmm. still is in the conversation even when it is eclipsed.
Correct.
All these years later.
Yeah. I agree with you that there's like a lot of aspect of it is a luxury product, and you just have to understand that going in. And that the question of, like, if you talk about worth it and value, the question of value, I do agree with you that you're not getting into this market generally because you're looking for the highest value. You will not find the highest value here, as most people understand the idea of value as being like bang for the buck kind of thing, right? I think, though, there is an argument to be made that there can be personal value in it.
Oh, worth
right?
it. Yeah. Like you say, worth it to you.
Worth it to
maybe
you, it
you can
definitely
address
can
that.
be.
When you, doesn't the aspect of personal, like, this is something I've wanted for a long time, I've saved up for it, and I really want it. It's worth it to you. So
and it connects you to the music in a way that other products have not yet. Right?
Oh, nobody talks about anything connecting to music these days. It's got to come out. There's got to be a chart.
Yeah.
Show me the graph of that.
Yeah, show me the graph.
Boy.
Yeah. Here is my emotional experience, and it's just this squiggly line. Yeah.
Use your ears, people. Use your ears.
Yeah.
And don't take the word of an idiot on YouTube.
Right. Well, and I will say that, like, if you understand the squiggly line, you can make some reasonably, although very incomplete, guesses, predictions as to whether or not you will find.
Yeah, they'll give you a rough estimate.
They are not the answer by any stretch. No. So
what I don't like it, just as an aside here, and you don't even have to use this in the thing, is I don't like the way
it's getting used.
I don't like the way these graphs historically have been marketed to enthusiasts as meaningful, and the subscribe to my whatever and you'll get access to all of my graphs. Respectfully, in
the audio only version, Michael just waved to the camera with 20% of his fingers.
Yeah,
I will let you determine which the 20% was.
Like you're discounting the fact that everybody has ears and everybody hears slightly different, and everybody appreciates something very different, and you can't tell me what's good and bad. Only you, the listener, can decide what's good and bad for you. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
There has been the carrying of it to the extreme too, in that what that graph says is the only thing that matters.
Yeah.
Right.
I know guys that love the HDA-20. Yeah. Love it. And it graphs like hell, and it gets panned in every review. It's like F tier, whatever. I don't even know if there's an F tier, but it's like the lowest tier of any, one of the, it's consistently ranked like one of the worst headphones in history. I own a pair. I think they're interesting. I don't think they're a perfect headphone, but they're interesting, and I pull them out every now and then because they give you a totally different soundstage. They give you this chopped salad soundstage. It's very interesting.
All right, so then back on the question of value and value. Is this top of the line worth it? Okay, I do think that on an individual level there can be a worth it aspect, and that is
completely agree with you.
That you put this on, you have realized that this is not an investment in terms of something that's going to appreciate in value over time, but you can look at it, I think, as an investment in your own personal musical experience.
Yeah, and your enjoyment of the hobby.
Yes, correct. Yeah. And so so then the question of is it worth it is not really a large scale, broad scale question that needs to be answered community wide. It's a question that needs to be answered individually.
Completely.
Right? Yeah.
I'm not going to yell at you if you go out tomorrow and buy a, whatever, an Aperio, whatever it is.
Right.
The golden sound edition of whatever. I'm not going to get mad at you. It's your money. Do what you want.
Now that said, you put yourself in $20,000 of debt to get there. I'm probably going to say, well, okay, enjoy it, have fun paying that off. Okay?
I would beg people not to. I'm such a financial nerd. I'm don't ever go into debt for audio gear. Don't ever, don't pay cash and buy used, people. Right. And the manufacturers will hate me for saying that, but please, if there's a message you take away from this, it's pay cash and buy used. Don't buy new gear.
Connected to this question of worth and value that I want to bring up here is the notion of diminishing returns. This is a phrase that gets thrown around in our audiophile hobby a lot. Okay, it's everywhere in our hobby. What is your take currently, as you look at the state of the top of the line headphone market? Is there diminishing returns? And if so, what do they look like or sound like? Maybe is the better question.
Oh, I think that diminishing returns is exactly what we're talking about when you're in pursuit of that last 5%. you know, because you can spend, and this is a perfect example. You can buy an HE1000 for whatever, $1,200-$1,300, and you will get probably 80% of the way to a Sesfara. You get to the Sesfara and you are, you know, you're 80%, you're just paying for that 20%, you know, to get that. So you're getting you're getting a lesser increase in sound quality for that larger gap in price increase.
Okay.
You know, if you think of it as a curve, like an economics curve, you know, you try and find the sweet spot on the curve. You don't want to buy here, which is at the top end, because the wedge you're getting is a heck of a lot less than if you're bought down here and you get this giant wedge, you know.
Yeah. So this is another one of those really challenging and tricky questions here, because like, to some degree, I think that I grant that from the pure technological standpoint and like the improvement of the technology itself and the results that it gets, there probably is a diminishing returns. Okay, but that does not guarantee that there is a direct linear correlation, if you will, between the technological diminishing return and the return on your enjoyment. Right? Like those things are not necessarily right there step for step with each other. They may have different slopes on their curves.
Oh, yeah.
They may over, you know, so go ahead.
I think it's because, and maybe you can fill this out, but you can't quantify enjoyment, right? You can't put a quantitative value on enjoyment. So it's hard to,
at least not unless you own like an MRI, an fMRI, and a CAT scanner, and you can listen to these things while inside an MRI, which don't, because they're magnetic and it'll just rip it right off and tear it apart, right? But like you could, in theory, I think, you know, measure someone's brain activity when they're listening to one of these things and compare it to them listening to something else and see like different centers light up.
Do you think there's 20% more activity on a Sesfara over an HE1000?
Well,
just like the price, is it going to be
in terms of like sections of the brain that light up? Maybe not, but like when you talk about the brain lighting up, what's lighting up are connections between things, and there might be connections that get made with the Sesfara that really lead to bigger enjoyment that you know aren't necessarily like. So this is not well understood. I'm hypothesizing a lot here, but I do suspect that, because like as much as I am suspicious of the overuse and over reliance of measurements in our hobby right now, like I am a scientist by trade, right? Like I went through grad school, you know, got the terminal degree, all of that kind of stuff in a science field.
Oh, that sounds painful.
You don't
want to get don't ever get a terminal degree. Oh, no, that's something else.
Yeah. Well, it happened, right? So like, it's one of those things where it's like, I love data and measurements and all that, but you got to understand what to do with them. And I do think that ultimately, because everything that we're talking about with audio reproduction and even what's going on in our brain, they are all physical processes, right? That in theory can be measured if we knew what to measure and if we knew how to measure them and the relationship between the measurement and what was going on up in the brain. But there are so many gaps in our understanding on that right now that the best tools that we have are on either side of your head. Okay. And as flawed devices as those can be, they are still the best tools that we have to determine whether we as individuals liked what we are hearing or we don't. Okay. Right. So anyway, that's the aside. So the other point that I was going to make on this diminishing returns things is like, do you get a performance jump, an audible performance jump, if you move up from like, say, $2,000 tier where you have the HE1000 SE, you have the Modhouse Tungsten, you have the Headphone 2, you've got the Dan Clark E3, okay? All really excellent headphones. They're all fantastic in their own way, right? When you jump from there up to the 4500 plus tier, where you have LCD5, Susvara, 1266, okay, on the ESTAT side, you've got, the SRX 9000, you've got the Odyssey Carbon 2, you got all those things up there. Okay.
I got a pile of those right down here. It's everyone you just live like, yeah, right there.
Yeah, I've got several of them in right now as well myself. Yeah. So, like, when you get up there, like, what is the improvement in performance? And I got to tell you, over that $2,000 tier, this is just my take on it. Not everyone has to agree with me. It's about a 50-50 proposition as to whether or not any individual headphone 4,500 plus actually does sound meaningfully better in enough areas of sound reproduction, okay, that it actually is worth that, $2,500 to $3,000 plus jump over that $2,000 tier. It's about, I would peg it as about a 50-50 proposition based on my experience there.
I think it comes down to again, it's personal. I think you at that point you're talking about personal, and I think when you get to the $2,000 level and up, you're also talking about preference over better. Is the Caldera better than the Tungsten? I'd offer that probably not. I think they're pretty even. I think there's a preference for one over the other, but you have to make that assessment for yourself. I don't know that you're getting a jump in quality, or some sort of jump in anything. I think it just becomes like, well, these are different in some different ways. I don't know that I could say, I would say that the build quality definitely, the build quality of a Caldera over a Mod House is significant. Probably $2,000 significant in some ways, but
Well, and this is where it can get tricky. When we start having to tick through like the individual models, like which ones are better, like which ones come up heads on that coin flip, and which ones come up tails, whatever.
And that's going to be individual. I mean,
it is going to be individual, and then, and it's my take, and not everyone agrees with me. Like, I know we've already kind of like moved the price point beyond this particular model, but like I do consider the Meze Elite to count in the top of the line tier, price wise. At least I have been. Maybe I need to adjust that, right?
It's fair,
but technically, it does not play up there, right? It's built beautifully. It has a pleasant tuning. I like its warm sound, and it has a nice big soundstage. But on the rest of the stuff, like the resolution, the holography of the soundstage, okay, those kinds of things, no, it's not playing up there.
Well, I would agree with you, but I would also say that there is a price. There's a it's a god tier comfort headphone.
Yes. It is wonderfully built. And it's very comfortable. Like the Meze's form factor that they have hit on with the Empyrean and Elite lines is amazing. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I mean, you can say, okay, well, is the Abyss a 1266 TC? Is that a god tier? Is that a top tier, top of the line headphone? I would say yes. I would also say, try wearing it for 4 hours. Try wearing a Meze Elite for 4 hours. It's a joy. It's an absolute joy. You have no fatigue on that headphone. You can wear it. You can wear it all day, all night. They never heat up on you. Your ears always feel good. You don't get any pain on your head, or any discomfort up here. They fit like a glove. And I think that there's a price I'm willing to pay for that, because it's a top tier product in that category. Mm-hmm. And I think comfort is the most overlooked category. You couldn't pay me quick enough to get some headphones off of my head, because I don't care how good they sound. If they're not comfortable, if an IEM isn't comfortable, I don't care if it's got 19 drivers aside and has got bone induction going to my, epiglottis. I don't give a shit. I'm like, hey, this thing isn't comfortable. It's not fun to wear. It's not enjoyable. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, if I'm paying $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, it better be comfortable. You better have brought it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you you're wrong on that. Like I generally only notice comfort when it's a problem. Okay, and that's that's one of the, and I'm different, right, on that. And it's like I really am first and foremost focused on the sound. Now, if I do notice that the comfort gets in the way of my ability to enjoy the sound, then I will talk about it, right?
First thing I
But
do when I review a
that's
product
just me.
is ergonomics, comfort,
Mhm.
fit, finish. Is this worth it? Does this look like the product that it, does this feel like a product that is worth this much money? Is it,
What do you got there? I can't quite
oh,
see it.
this is an OG. This
Well,
is
that's
a
a
Fostex THXOO
oh
collab
my,
with
okay.
Massdrop
Oh, that is going back a
from
ways.
10 years ago. Not even the
Yeah.
detachable cables. This is an OG, and this is the much desired Purple Heart version. I also have an ebony in this. And
Okay.
these are world-class comfortable once you change the pads. The original stock pads were incredibly discomfortable, or
Yeah.
discomforting. And Zach from ZMF hooked me up with an ideal pair of pads for these.
Is it the Ori, the original Ori pad? Because I think I had Ori pads on
Yeah, it's
my
either Ori
XO
or it's
once upon a time.
yeah,
Okay.
probably what it is.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So yeah, this is
Good.
just this diminishing return questions. It's just something that I struggle with a lot too, because like I see where people are coming from when they talk about diminishing returns, and some of it I wonder is like you just didn't hear the right headphone for you up at that price. All right. And like my 50-50 proposition, the ones that I think are better, are worth it in air quotes over the $2,000 tier, just as an example, may not be what yours are, or what anyone else's is. So it's just like I hate to keep beating this dead horse, but even like with this diminishing return questions, it's like it's an individual calculation again.
Yeah, I just think that you do get. I mean, you can't expect if you go to $5,000 from $2,000. Going from $100 to $2,000 is a much greater jump in sound quality than from 2,000 to 5,000, right?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
Well, that's your diminishing returns right there. That's all. That's all I think most people mean when they say it. And in its simplest, most basic terms, it's that 100. That jump from 100 to 2,000 is a much greater sound quality jump than from 2,000 to 5,000. And I think that the differences between some of those $2,000 headphones and those $5,000 headphones is getting you're getting very small on those jumps, and those jumps
Well,
are. And
there's another.
There's some headphones at $2,000 that I prefer over many at $5,000.
There's another way to analyze that though, because if you look at, let's just call it $200 to $2,000, just to keep the numbers nice and
Sure.
round, and crucially orders of magnitude, right? Because you go to 200 to 2,000, that is an order of magnitude of more money, right?
Yeah,
but if you go from 2,000 to 5,000, it's
1.5. Yeah, factor.
Yeah, it's a factor of 1 point or 2.5, whatever the case may be. So, is it diminishing returns that way? I think it's just another way that we have to think about it, right? So you go from 10 times the price to 2.5 times the price. Yeah, like it's probably not linear that way. Okay. Which just comes down to which way do you need to calculate it, and that just comes down to your preferences, what you like,
Completely.
what your budget can handle. Okay, that kind of stuff there. So, are we ready to move on to the next question, or do you have more to say about either the value or diminishing returns question?
Yeah, I don't think that there's too much more to add there. I think that it's I see where most people come from, and I tend to agree with them, and it's not that big a deal to me. I don't think this is a huge weighted. To me, it's not a debated thing. It's like I think it's kind of accepted, and that's okay. Hey, that like you said, your personal value. It's like I value that 20%. I chase that extra 10% because it's interesting to me. It's something that I find interesting, and that's enough. That's enough for me. It's worth it. It's worth it for me. That's why I do it.
Okay.
And
all
for
right.
YouTube clicks. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really what we're all here.
Jesus.
Yeah.
The attention economy, my friend. It's changed us all.
Right? Like my thumbnail is going to be you wiping your nose just for the YouTube clicks.
Good.
Just
I like that. Please put that on the thumbnail of this. Snot-nosed director.
There you go. All right.
We're all idiots.
Okay. Did you know you could buy access to individual review videos over on Patreon? That's right, over on Patreon, you can buy individual videos from my review library, both before their public release and commercial free, for just $5 or $3, depending on what kind of video it is. Head over to patreon.com/wavetheory1 for more info. This one is also a very big discussion, but let's just kind of hit on some of the things there. Like what, and I know there is a role here, so let's just talk about it a little bit. What role does source gear play here? How much is source gear a factor when you're up here at this level?
Critical. Critical. Absolutely critical. I can list headphone after headphone that you have to, what most people perceive, at least I don't want to sound snobby because I'm not. I'm really not. I'm the most every person you'll ever meet. But I think what people who aren't experienced in purchasing these higher end products may not understand is that the cost of the product doesn't end with the cost of the product. If you buy a raw Lemanis, I said this on this review, the cost of that product does not end with the purchase of the headphone. You cannot, if you're going to pair it with a $5,000 amp, you might as well just go buy a $5,000 headphone or a $2,000 headphone, because that $5,000 or $2,000 headphone will outperform the Imanis on your $5,000 source gear. It will. Because the Imanis needs current. It needs, you've got to drive I drove it with a 100-watt speaker amp to get these things going. I've got the Ray Samuels B21 Raider here, which is it's 20 watts of power. You've got to give this thing so much current in a low impedance in order to make that ribbon perform and dance. And if you don't, it sounds like an ordinary headphone. It'll make volume. The Sesfara will make volume on
just
a
on
Burson conductor.
Yeah, it'll make, yeah.
It'll make sound. Yes, it will. Put it with a Bakun or an Enlium 23R, which has got gobs of current and giant honking capacitors on the inside of the thing that can discharge huge current in a large amount of current in a very short time. It becomes a different headphone because the diaphragm on that headphone is so tight. If you get a bass impact note, if you don't have the current behind it, it doesn't move the diaphragm much. It'll move the diaphragm, but it won't move it that much, and you don't get that bass response. It takes a lot to get that headphone dancing. And the same thing with the ribbons. They just don't sound good on, you've got to match that headphone with the amp specifically. And on the Sesfara, I went through, I went through the head amp, 2 head amps. I went through the Phonitor X and the Ferrum stack and a Burson and a this and a that. Nothing. It wasn't until at first I bought the Bakun 13R. They're now Enlium, but the Bakun 13R with the massive capacitors on the inside of it and the Enlium 23R are the only 2 lower priced amps that can push that headphone and really do something special with it and give it its own, just give it life.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I'll go quite that extreme. There are a couple of recent examples, like the Prelude amp that Hi-Fi Man or Golden Wave made, and Hi-Fi Man bought out that brand. And I think
I haven't heard it, so I can't
okay,
comment.
one of the reasons that they did is because that Prelude amp at $2,500. I'm not saying it's the best Susvara amp on the market. It is not, but it is where you really start to get it. It's like you can hear. You're like,
Yeah.
oh. That's what everyone is talking about, right?
Yeah.
Like you start to get it there. I would say another one is the Ferrum Ore, particularly if you put it together with the Hypsos power supply.
I think it's a good
you
mid.
start to
I
get
don't know if that's
yeah.
great for a Susvara. Because I've had that combination, and I thought it was good for the Abyss. I didn't think it was a Susvara.
Okay.
For me, it didn't quite do it.
Yeah.
The only amp on the low end that I've heard with the Susvara, there's two amps I've heard in the low end. One was the Bakun 13R, which is no longer made because they broke up the company, and then the Enlium 23R, which is a flawed amp. I'm not saying it's a perfect, I'm not saying like, oh, everybody go out and buy the Enlium 23R. Don't, because there's flaws with that amp. There's serious flaws with it. There's noise in that amp. But
a little while ago, I did a video specifically about like amps to drive Susvara at various lower price tiers, because you, like, as you said earlier, like that amp used anymore is getting like below 2,500 USD on the used market, and that is an absolute steal if you've got the horses to drive it. And as you correctly point out, it's not just about getting loudness out of it, right? It's like getting control. It's about getting that bass oomph and those sorts of things. And there are more and more lower price tiers where it's like, again, no one, or at least I wasn't, I don't think anyone's really making the claim that is going to drive Susvara as well as a Riviera AIC-10.
no,
I know that's a popular.
I haven't. And by the way, I haven't reviewed that, and I haven't heard it.
The Prelude. Or
no, the AIC-10.
The
I have not
AIC-10.
spent. Unfortunately, that is an amp that I have not heard.
Yeah.
And I'm dying to get in here because I would love to. I want to get it, and I want to get Danny to lend me a RAL again and a Manus again. Because that's
a funny little story here. I don't know if you've heard it either, but the Audma Maestro HPA1, it's like about a $10,000 DAC amp. It's an all-in-one.
I heard it at CanJam.
Okay, yeah. I talked to them at CanJam New York as well, and they got me connected to Russell over at Rock On AV, which is not far from you. It's in Irvine, little retailer there, and they are the American distributor for the Audma brand, and so they sent me a review unit of the Maestro HPA1. It turns the Susvara into a head slammer, right? Like
interesting.
The Susvara has a reputation for not being particularly slammy, which is in a lot of ways telling on yourself. Okay, if you're in that camp, because that thing will rattle your skull.
Oh yeah.
If you put it on, a proper amplifier.
That's what the Enlium did.
And the Audma will turn that thing into a head slammer. Like it was like making my vision go blurry with bass hits, kind of.
It probably doesn't have any of the noise of the Enlium either.
It's pretty quiet. It is pretty quiet. Well, so Cesar Matoli, he's the designer of it there. They're an Italian company. I saw him again at CanJam SoCal this past September. For the audience's reference, Michael and I are recording this in the middle of November 2025. So about 2 months ago, I saw him saw Cesar at CanJam, and I asked him, I'm like, how did you make this amp turn the Susvara into a head slammer? How did you do it? And he just kind of got this wry smile on his face. And in his very thick Italian accent, he was just like, up to 230 milliamps of current. I was like, so it came down to power delivery. Right?
And
like
specifically, by the way, on that, and the engineer, and I think capacitance has a huge, huge factor with the Susvara, with these headphones that have these extremely tight diaphragms to get them moving. exceptional capacitance inside the amplifier has a huge effect, in my experience, on the ability to drive that headphone. Sorry. The size and the reserve of the capacitor. Capacitor is just a battery. It's an electronic battery. It goes inside.
It's a one-shot use rechargeable battery.
So so what it does is it fills up with power, and then it can discharge power very quickly because it's on hand. It doesn't have to go through. So you've got the amps that drive the Susvara well, in my experience, are amps that have larger capacitors and larger number of capacitors on the inside. So when a bass note hits, or the signal calls for this gush of power, it's got these huge capacitors inside that discharge a lot of power in a hurry, and that moves that diaphragm better.
Mm-hmm. And well, then they've got to charge up really quickly again so they can handle the next hit, which, I mean, material quality of the capacitors themselves has a large role in the rate at which it can charge and discharge and all of that too, which is a thing that I think is not also always well understood in our hobby either. Right. So yeah, and I think we're just kind of like, we're coming up with examples. It's like, yeah, you really need to invest in the signal chain around your top of the line headphone as well, if you're going to come anywhere near that question we were talking about earlier of personal value.
And know the needs of the individual high-end headphone, because everyone is different. Every one of those is different.
And sometimes it's not even just about raw power output. Like, I think the classic example here is the Utopia. The Focal Utopia is well known to be an extremely picky headphone in terms of what amplifier you put it on. Like, it is extremely picky. And the thing about the Utopia is how angry it gets when it's not well driven, right? Like, the Susvara to me is always interesting because of how nice and sweet it is. Like, even when you're not properly powering the Susvara, it still sounds pretty good.
Thanks for trying.
Yeah, it does. It's very nice. Like,
here's your participation trophy.
Right, and I've used this in a video before, but I'm going to say it again because I think it's hilarious. And that is, like, when they are not driven properly, right? When they are unhappy with the signal chains that they are on, the Susvara kind of looks at you and gently, it says something to the effect of, like, hey, looks like you may have put on a little weight there. Are you feeling okay? Are you stressed? That kind of thing. Like, it's very gentle about it. Whereas when the Utopia is unhappy with its signal chain, it will just yell at you, put down the fork, Lardo. Like, it is not nice about it when it happens. And so, like, the Utopia is, it's an interesting drive because of its impedance curve, right? Like, it has its high impedance around its driver resonant frequency, somewhere in that 60 to 80 hertz range. It's got a spike up to like 290-ish, almost 300 ohms. But it's nominally an 80 ohm headphone. So, like, where impedance normally is measured at 1 kilohertz, it's got basically an 80 ohm impedance. And then it's also, for a dynamic driver, this is really unusual. It's almost flat in its impedance all the way up to 20 kilohertz.
How are you on the Utopia versus the Utopia 2 argument?
So I own the OG Utopia.
Yeah.
I have one of those around. And it's not because I didn't like the 22 version. I do like the 22 version. I think I have a slight preference for it. It's a little bit more complete, a little bit more resolving. It's warmer tuned also, and I tend to like, that warmth in there as well. But it was a crime of opportunity, basically. I could obtain the original Utopia in a trade plus a little bit of cash with someone for much, much less than I could a brand new, at the time, Utopia 22. So that's why I have the original and not the 22.
Dumb trades I could go into. We could talk for 2 hours about dumb trades I've done.
There's a podcast episode.
That's a whole episode.
Michael's
we
dumb
can fill
trades.
That out, because I've done so many bad ones. What are you driving the Utopia with, by the way?
This is a tricky question too, because, like, I mean, as a reviewer, I putting my own stuff together and using it all the time is rare, right? It's very rare. I will give you a list of amplifiers I think have handled the Utopia quite well. And I have one of them. I have an LTA Z10E right here. I think that does a really nice job with the Utopia. The Golden Wave Prelude that we just talked about is another one that does really well with it. And then even at the cheaper end, the Lake People G111, the Mark II, right? This is like a $600 amplifier.
Never heard
the
of
Mark II. Well, are you familiar with the Vioelectric or Nimbus brands? Okay.
Yes.
They are owned by Lake People.
Okay.
Like Vioelectric and Nimbus are like the Buick and Cadillac brands to the Chevy or GM that is Lake
Got
People.
it.
Okay.
That makes sense.
So, the Mark II of that G111 actually handles the original Utopia anyway really well. I was quite surprised how good that sounds. Curiously, the Mark I sounds horrible. The Utopia is very strident and just sits there and screams at you at how unhappy it is on that amplifier, right? So, yeah, but I'm also going to say I think the Utopia, at least the original, is another one of those really great values if you can get the right amp for it. Because used prices, it's like I see them go from like $2,000 to $2,200 US, and that is a whole lot of headphone performance. For that
The first two headphones I bought in this hobby were the ZMF Verite open back, and like really bought that were big boy headphones for the show, because I sold my HE1000 to get the show going. This is how this whole thing started. This mess I'm in. But I bought the Verite open back, and I bought the Focal Utopia OG, first one. Didn't have a version 2 yet because I'm that old. And I didn't know that I don't like either of those headphones.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
It is a learning process.
I didn't understand it. And this is part of when we talked way back when we started this discussion.
Yeah.
We were talking about why not to buy these top of the line products, and this is a specific example where I bought two top of the line at the time products, and neither of them were in my preference, and I wound up not liking either of them. And my reviews were terribly skewed and all over the map. They were terrible reviews. I tell people don't watch them. They're a waste of time. And I've done bad shows. We've all done bad shows. And the review is terrible because I didn't have any appreciation of what I was hearing and how it was not appealing to me, even though I thought it should be. And your left brain and your right brain are in competition with each other. They're beating each other up. Because my logical side says I should love both of these headphones, and my emotional side is saying these aren't connecting with me, neither of them, and I didn't know better. So I have two terrible reviews very early in my channel that are worthless because I didn't understand what I was doing, and it turns out I don't like the Utopia. I don't like the Utopia. I don't like the beryllium driver. I don't like what it does to the sound. I don't like
how the Verite has the beryllium driver too, right?
Same thing.
Yeah.
So I doubled down on stupid. That's what I do.
Yeah. Well,
that's why I tell people I'm an idiot at the beginning of every episode, because I'm an idiot. I do dumb things.
Yep.
Don't listen to me. Use your own ears, people.
Oh, well. Then I'm just cutting your half of this episode out. It's just going to be me talking with minutes long gaps of it. No. All right. Where are the music clips? You may be wondering where the featured music artist is in this episode, and the truth is I have tapped out my personal connections on getting artists in here. So I need audience help. If you want to continue to be introduced to relatively unknown music artists, please have an artist reach out to me, whether they be a friend of yours or you are an artist yourself, I should say. Please find my email address in the About tab of my YouTube homepage and send me an email. We'll make sure we get you in the rotation. For today, I'll go ahead and play the full-length cut of the track that I used for my intro music from Mia Edenberg and Benjamin Shielden. It's called All Behind, so stick around at the end of the episode for that. So we'll wrap this up here. Personal favorites in the top of the line. What are you running right now, and why do you like them so much?
Well, what I run around here is the Sisvara. That's
OG?
the OG.
Okay.
Yeah, you will not get me. I will not buy any product that can be destroyed in 30 seconds by a paperclip. Not going to happen. I'm too rough and tumble. All these amps back here have sharp edges. I will set that thing down and I will tear that thing up. I will not buy an unveiled product. That's just personal. If you want to buy one, go buy one. I don't give a shit. Your funeral. But
funeral
anyway. The OG Sisvara is like probably my main go-to. My favorite headphone, I think the best headphone out there right now is the Rawl Imanis. And both of them happen to work really well with the Ray Samuels B21 Raider, which is a current beast. And so I have that amp, which is critical to the chain. Neither of those headphones are fun to amp chase. If you buy into them, you are in for some pain. And you're in for pain at the wallet. I can tell you this. I've heard these headphones on $15,000 and $18,000 amps, and they've sucked. Been completely unimpressive. They're that picky. That's what you're buying into when you buy into this stuff at the top of that top end. If you know, and there are people who've put it on a Burson conductor and said done, or hollow spring and said done. Fine. I don't hear it. It doesn't work for me. But I appreciate, if that's what you like, go for it. That's fine with me. I just know that in my pursuit of getting the Sisvara to sound good, and I've got one of my guys who got so pissed off amp chasing with the Sisvara, he actually sold it and went and just bought a lower tier product because he's like, I'm tired of spending money on this thing to get it to sound better. And it took me forever. It took me years to get the Sisvara where I want it, where I enjoy it, where I think it's giving me something special.
Okay.
I've got tube amps, I've got all this other shit back there, and there's like a couple of products that'll drive it, where I think drive it well. Not drive it well. We always talk about driving. Yeah, it'll make sound with a lot of different amps.
Most of them will make sound. It's just whether or not that sound is good. Yeah.
And I think that if you blindfold somebody and you say, listen to this now, listen to it on this amp, and now listen to it on this amp, there's going to be, I think most people will go, oh, well, what's that? What's going on there? This sounds different to me. They may not be able to describe it or whatever, but they're going to have a different feeling from the headphone if you when you put current into it with a lot of capacitance.
All right. Okay.
So that would be the Imanis is, to me, is I think the best headphone on the planet right now.
Okay.
I think it's better than the HE1. I think it's better than the Shangri-La. I think it's better than the Aperio. Shouldn't say that about the Aperio. I haven't heard it. I haven't spent enough time with it to qualify.
Well, and there are two editions of the Aperio. There's an OG, and then there's the Golden Sound edition and all that. So
yeah, I haven't spent. I won't say that. So scratch that. But I think it's of the 50,000 and 60,000. I think the Imanis is. I think at that point you're talking about different, not better. And I love what I heard out of the Imanis.
Yeah.
Amped to the nines. I've got a $12,000 amp with a $20,000 signal chain in DAX.
Yep. I had the opportunity to review the Imanis. It was a loan from a a patron, basically just someone who watches my channel, which I am always amazed at the generosity of the audiophile community. Like, they have stepped up and taken care of me a lot, sent me cool things to review and all
Oh,
that kind
good.
of stuff. But
Yeah.
anyway, I got these, and granting that, like, I have my Z10E here, which is a 7K amp, and it's like got speaker outputs with 12 watts a channel at its tube. Okay, and it's 12 watts a channel into 8 ohms and all that. And like, I had the 32 ohm transformer interface that came with the unit, and then I was able to borrow the 8 ohm from Danny over at Requisite Audio, Danny McKinney. Okay, and all that, and I could tell the Amanus was good. It didn't really connect with me.
Yeah, you don't have the signal path for that.
That's part of it, but like, even when was at Can Jam and got some demos that on like the Vivo amps and all of that kind of stuff.
By the way, the Vivo amps are terrible with that headphone.
Well, okay, well then you got to tell the people putting them on display, because
Yeah,
maybe that's it.
I
right?
couldn't believe it, because I had the exact same reaction you did. Honest to God, I had the exact same reaction you did when I heard them on the Vivo, and they had these giant $17,000 tube amps. This thing you look at them and you go, holy shit, those things must drive everything.
Yeah.
And I sat down with the Amanus and I went, don't care.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's got an interesting sound. The sound stage is kind of interesting, but I don't get it. It wasn't.
I did find a particular weakness with the Amanus, though, that Alex at RAL backed up and said this is he did use the words on Headfi. He actually wrote this on the forum. He's like, yeah, it's not the cup of tea of the Amanus. And that is if you use really deep, heavy bass, right? Like the track Why So Serious by Hans Zimmer from the Dark Knight soundtrack. That synthesized bass line about 3.5 minutes into that track absolutely melted the Amanus. And I said that, right? I said that there's a problem here with this track on this headphone. And that started a war on Headfi. And Alex from RAL did come in and say, yeah, it's really not made for that kind of thing. He used the words like, it is not the Amanus' cup of tea to do that kind of thing. And so that's one thing that just like, this is just my personal thing here. That doesn't quite sit right with me, because if I'm spending, $9,500 for just the headphone plus, up to $20K, as you put it, or beyond for a signal chain for that thing.
Yep.
I feel like I should be able to listen to that track and it's going to sound good. Okay, like it's a personal calculation.
Absolutely.
That may not be.
No, absolutely. That's fair.
Yeah, that may not be anyone else's, like that may not be a deal breaker for anyone else. And that's fine. Okay.
If you were in SoCal, I'd bring you over here and for a demo. I don't have them right now. I had to give them back, unfortunately. But Danny said I think he's gonna lend them to me for another period of time here.
Okay.
It would be the one headphone I would trade. I would trade my X9000, Abyss 1266, Meze, DMF Atrium, or any combination of them, all of them. I'd give them all up for that one headphone.
Okay. Yeah. So for me right now, I do like the Sus Unveiled, right? And I get the arguments about it being, easy to destroy, right? Like the paperclip and all that.
Yeah.
As long as you're careful, like I do appreciate those arguments. I put the covers back on it immediately after it comes off my head, regardless of how long it's going to be before I come back to it. I put the covers back on it. But that one has a party trick that I've not heard from anything else, and that is it's not a dynamic range question, because most of those top of the line headphones have amazing dynamic range. It is the delineations of the dynamic range in between. That Sus Unveiled has more levels of loud than any other headphone I've ever heard, right? Even the original Susvara. And so there's a realism that comes out of that that I haven't quite heard from others yet. Now, that said, I also still have the OG Sus. I think it is amazing, and I will use it as a reference for a while, too. I have long loved that headphone also. And then I do like the Utopias when they are on signal chains that they respond well to. I think they are really good. So we're a little bit different on that. That's okay.
Yeah,
But
no,
yeah,
and there's
those
no
would
right
be
or wrong
my
answers. Yeah.
those would be my answers there. Others that I have heard that I have liked, like I think LCD5 is pretty good. It's a little bit too forward in the mid range for me to like really crack the top of the list, but from a technical standpoint, I think it's excellent.
My take on those are
Yeah,
they're a perfect mixing headphone. If
yeah,
you are going to mix, that is the headphone to have. I wouldn't look any further. That's the perfect mixing headphone. They are very flat to my hearing, and they are extremely detailed, extraordinarily detailed, nearly electrostatic detailed, fantastic. And I think it's a little misunderstood because everybody thought it was going to be the next LCD4, the next generation LCD4. It's a totally different headphone.
mm-hmm.
Shares very little in common.
And I think the Carbon 2 on the eStat side from Odyssey is also really, really good. And so, like, I got to review that one recently, and I thought that was quite spectacular.
I like the X9000 more.
Okay.
Still, I thought that it was close. They're close, but there's more resolution coming from the X9000. I thought.
See, that one sounded dry to me. The X9000.
It is a dry sound. Yeah, but it's for. So, yeah. I'm not going to listen to hard rock on an eStat anyway. Mm. So I'm going to it primarily for jazz, acoustic music, that kind of thing. So that's my use case is not, I don't need, that dryness actually, favors things like classical and there's a realism and a lifelike quality. The only thing is they don't have great bass extension. Carbon has a little better bass extension, which I will grant it all day long. But honestly, it's like after hearing the Amanis and what it does with bass, my entire reference has been shaken in the last 2 months from my experience with the Amanis. And again, the amp was absolutely critical. I've heard the Amanis 3 or 4 times on different things. I thought they were okay. I didn't think they were great. I thought they were okay. And I also thought that there was a party trick going on with the stage that I was going to get very tired of very quickly, and I would never consider buying them. That changed in the last 2 months.
I liked the stage, the spatial presentation. I think the overall tuning was pretty strong on the Amanis, and of course the detail and the resolution are fantastic.
And high gain. The other thing is high gain. I always,
but it just didn't quite do it for me beyond that. And that bass issue is one of those things that just eats at me.
I would love to have you come here sometime. Seriously, you have an open invitation if you're ever in LA. Okay. Hit me up. I may be in Tennessee by that point. Come to LA. Like, Michael, I'm here. I'm like, great, I'm in Tennessee. We're trying to move. Okay. But if we ever get in the same city for whatever reason, and I can arrange it, I really want you to hear this headphone on either. I haven't heard it on the Riv, and the Riv is what everybody swears by with that headphone.
This is the Riviera AIC 10. I think is what you're referring to.
I've never heard it, and I'm very careful to try and delineate. And there's a lot of stuff I don't hear because I am not this is not my life. This is my hobby. This isn't my life.
Well, and also the high end is so fractured. There are so many little boutique brands and all of that out there. You cannot be on top of all of them.
Yeah, and I'm not, and I don't even, I'm not in I'm in this a fraction of my time. I'm doing other things most of the time. Whereas there are guys who rightfully live this. This is how they make a living, is doing the head, so they know every single product from every single manufacturer. I'm not a science person. I'm a lifestyle person more than I am. You understand more about physics and waves
I hope
and
all
signals.
Those years of education paid off. But
you know more than I'll ever know, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate that about you. That's great. I have hearing for production. That's what I built my whole career on, is working in music studios, working in the field, doing field audio, doing directing, in editing, post. I'm a content I've been, in the grandest scheme, I'm a content creator, even though that word gets used in a derogatory way most times these days.
Yeah, I know. Like, I guess I'm technically an influencer, as they call it these days, but I hate the term.
Oh, my wife corrects me daily. She's like, I'm like, well, baby, I'm an influencer. And she goes, no. And she goes, you're not.
Well,
she goes,
clearly you're not influencing her. That's,
so I go, so I'm not. I'm like, all right. I'm a micro influencer, and she goes, you're not even a micro influencer. She goes, a micro influencer has 10,000 whatevers, and you have,
okay.
And I'm like, so what am I? And she goes, you're a nano influencer. And I'm like, can I put that on a t-shirt? Nano influencer in really small letters.
Oh, that would be good. That would be good.
Go on my merch line.
Put it on a shiny sticker on a headphone box. Cause I was just thinking like, Hi-Fi has got those stickers on their boxes, like nano diaphragm technology.
Yeah.
So it made me think about that. All right. I think that probably, we can about wrap it up here.
Beating this horse.
Yeah, Michael, I really appreciate your time. I know you're busy.
Fun.
It was very fun. I really enjoyed this conversation, and hopefully we could do it again sometime about another topic in audio. Yep. All right. Well, I appreciate your time, Michael. Thanks again, and yeah, we will talk soon. That was a lot.
All right. See you.
See ya. That was a really fun conversation I had with Michael. I enjoyed it. I hope that you did too, and I hope to bring Michael back on a future episode on a different topic. Thanks to all of you for listening and or watching again. I really appreciate all the support. And once again, if you are a music artist or you know a music artist who would like to be featured on this podcast and be introduced to people in our music-loving hobby, please reach out to me and we'll get you in the rotation. But for today, I will play the full version of the clip that I use for the intro music. This is All Behind by Mia Edenberg and Benjamin Shielden. Thanks again, everybody, for listening, and as always, enjoy the music.